Hey everyone! I hope you all had a great Thanksgiving weekend. Yes, as another holiday has come and gone, so has another Black Friday, and Record Store Day in the process. I'll admit I wasn't quite as excited for some of this month's releases, especially when you include all of the titles that seem to keep getting pushed back again and again and again, but I think I still managed to make out pretty well and have some fun in the process. As always, I picked all of these up from the record store that I work at, Spin Me Round Records in Easton, PA. With all of that said, let's take a look. And the road starts here, with Aerosmith's The Road Starts Here. For those who don't know, this is basically Aerosmith's first known recordings, including the very first versions of Dream On, Movin' Out, and others. Apparently these recordings were just recently discovered in their vaults, which led to this release. I wasn't sure if I was going to find this one worthwhile, but in the end I decided it really was. While the debut album and the next 2 or 3 follow-ups were all amazing releases to me, these recordings give us a far, far better glimpse into what the group sounded like in their earlier bar days, even before their self-titled debut. The whole thing is really raw and was obviously not meant for a commercial release at the time, but that's kinda what I like about it. It gives us a far more interesting glimpse into their songwriting process than just about any recordings I think I've ever come across by them. I think I also enjoyed this version of Movin' On more than the one on the debut album. Go figure. The sound quality is obviously not the greatest out there, but going into this with somewhat low expectations, I came out pretty impressed, and think this turned out to be far better than I was expecting it to. If you've ever been curious about the band's earlier days and don't mind hearing some slightly muddy recordings to get you there, I'd say this one is well worth your time. And looking inside of the gatefold, we get some very nice photos of the band. Very nice classic shots. They just don't make pictures like that anymore. I also like how the sleeve is designed to basically make it look like you're seeing the actual master tapes here. Even the vinyl itself manages to look like the center of a tape. It's a nice little effect. Next up is James LaBrie's 2005 album, Elements of Persuasion. For those who don't know, James LaBrie is Dream Theater's singer, who's also had a few solo albums under his belt, just like John Petrucci and Jordan Rudess. LaBrie's style has veered more towards the straightforward hard rock and heavy metal sound, with less of a progressive metal focus like Dream Theater. It honestly sounds more like the kind of music you'd hear from hard rock and nu metal groups instead. With that said, I still enjoyed this album a lot, and think it works best on repeated listens. The lyrical subject matter is pretty deep and focuses on a lot of issues we face in real life and what we choose to focus on based on the point we've currently reached in that life. It's all very introspective stuff, and I dig it a lot. Now inside the gatefold here, we get a whole set of lyric sheets, all in the middle with pictures. Very, very well put together stuff. And the vinyl itself is yellow, and I'll pull out the first disc just so that you can see. And there we go. Very, very nice clean yellow. Good stuff. Now we have the debut album by Thundercat, The Golden Age of the Apocalypse, and oh, wow, this thing is shiny. I think the last time I saw an album cover like this, it was the collaboration between Kanye West and Jay-Z. Woo! If I can zoom in on this right, on top of the awesome hologram in the center, this entire thing, this whole record sleeve, is actually embossed. All of that. You can actually feel all of that. It feels super fancy. The team really did their work to put this one together. If you don't know who Thundercat actually is, then you should take the time to give him a listen. This man has worked alongside Flying Lotus, Kendrick Lamar, and a host of other artists in jazz, hip-hop, and everything in between. After forming a relationship with and working alongside Flying Lotus for the Cosmogramma album, Flying Lotus would go on to produce this one, almost feeling like an extension of their work together up to this point. And what an album it is! This is essentially the jazz, funk, R&B, electro, hip-hop album that I never knew I needed in my life, but was so glad to discover. Every song on this album is simply flawless from beginning to end, and I wouldn't have it any other way. This release also has 2 bonus tracks, just making the whole thing even sweeter. And although this is a single LP instead of a gatefold like most of the others, it does have a very, very nice, if I can get it out of here, red vinyl. Shiny, shiny red vinyl. Translucent red vinyl. Yeah. Oh, and it appears, though I can't show it to you, that there's actually a code for the digital version of the album in here too. So, I will be gladly downloading that later. Nice. And finishing things off, I ended up picking up a title from the previous Record Store Day drop this year. I believe it was drop 2, though I can't say for sure. While I had never heard of this album before picking it up, the information on the hype sticker in the back of the record really managed to catch my attention. This group is called Negative Space, and the album Hard, Heavy, Mean and Evil came out in 1970. This album is described as an important piece of metal history, forming a missing link between Blue Cheer and Black Sabbath. That is quite a claim. But I must say, after finally hearing it, I can kind of see what they were talking about. While the album is still blues rock through and through, there are undoubtedly some heavier moments that make it sound slightly different from your typical blues and hard rock ensembles. I think what surprised me more, though, is how nice the more soft and ballad-like songs turned out to be as well. While I do regret missing out on this one earlier, not that I had much of a choice with the original pressing only having 500 copies in the first place, I am glad to finally have it as part of my collection now. Now if we could just get some Blue Cheer reissues too. Although it's not really visible from far away, the tiny logo is actually an embossed logo. You can see it lighting up there when I move it through the light. Pretty cool. I'll be more than happy to add this one to the metal history pile. It's a big pile. And those were my pickups this year. I hope you enjoyed looking at all these with me. Did you get to pick up anything yourself this weekend? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And until next time, see you later.